Welcome to secondary science. In the middle stage, science began with curiosity, observing the world, asking questions, and finding out how things work. Now the journey continues with deeper exploration. We will not just ask what happens, we will measure it, build models, and test our ideas until we are confident.
Welcome to secondary science. In the middle stage, science was about being curious, observing the world, asking questions, and finding out how things work. Now, in the secondary stage, the same journey continues, but with much deeper exploration. Remind students that our journey began with wonder and grew through careful experiments, connecting ideas across the living and non-living world. The difference now is depth. We won't just ask what happens. We'll measure it, build models for it, and test our ideas until we're confident. The big shift. Science is not only about what we know, but about how we know it. This year, we study the method of science as much as the facts. How we know means tracing the path from a question to a trusted answer, through observation, measurement, modeling, and testing. A fact can be memorized, but understanding how it was discovered is what lets you judge new claims for yourself. How we know. Observation to measurement. Careful observations lead to measurements. We move from "it looks hot" to "it is 80 degrees Celsius." A measurement turns a vague impression into something exact that anyone can check and repeat. This is the first step that separates science from opinion. Numbers can be compared and tested, while feelings cannot. How we know. Patterns to symbols. Patterns in nature are expressed using symbols and equations, so they can be shared and tested precisely. Instead of long sentences, scientists write compact symbols and equations, like V equals D divided the T, that capture a pattern exactly. This shared shorthand means a scientist in India and one in Brazil understand the same relationship instantly. How we know. Models. We build models to represent complex systems in a simple, workable way. The real world is too complicated to study all at once, so we make a model, a stripped-down version that keeps only what matters for our question. We'll spend the whole next section learning how models are built and why they're so useful. How we know. Testing ideas. Ideas are tested, often revised, and sometimes even discarded. This is the heart of science. No idea is sacred. If stronger evidence appears, even a famous idea can be improved or dropped, and that willingness to change is a strength, not a weakness. Ask the class. Can a scientific idea ever be thrown away? Why is that a good thing? The textbook's name. Exploration. The book asks us to look more closely, think more carefully, and find how scientific ideas make sense of nature, technology, and our place in them. The title is really a promise about attitude. Approach each topic like an explorer, not a memorizer. Looking closely and thinking carefully matters more than rushing to the right answer. The page number design. Every page number is framed by a magnifying glass and a compass, a clue to how this book wants us to think. These symbols aren't decoration. They're a reminder printed on every single page. Each time students see them, they're being nudged to observe carefully and to stay on course. The magnifying glass. It stands for careful observation, noticing patterns and paying attention to what others might miss. Many great discoveries began when someone spotted a small detail everyone else overlooked. Training your eye to notice patterns is a skill you can practice, just like the children examining a leaf on the chapter's cover. The compass. It stands for direction, choosing the right models, asking the right questions, and knowing the limits of where our ideas apply. Observation alone isn't enough. Without direction, you could collect facts forever and still learn nothing. The compass reminds us to ask focused questions and to recognize when an idea stops working. Exploration with purpose. Together, they tell us exploration is not aimless wandering. It is making sense of the world with care and purpose. Putting the two symbols side by side gives the chapter's main message. Real exploration is both careful, magnifying glass, and directed, compass. That balance is what we'll practice all year.
It feels hot.
Models. Simplifying the world. Why we need models. The natural world is complex. Studying it in full detail is often impossible. So science uses models, simplified ways of looking at real systems. Imagine trying to describe every atom, gust of wind, and blade of grass at once. It can't be done. A model lets us set most of that aside and concentrate on the few things that actually affect our answer. What a model focuses on. A model keeps only what is most important for the question being asked and leaves the rest out. The real skill is deciding what counts. A good model is like a map. A map that showed every pebble and leaf would be useless. It helps precisely because it leaves things out. A model in physics. A moving car can be treated as a single point. When we study how fast a car travels between two towns, its shape, color, and number of seats don't matter. Treating it as a single moving dot keeps the maths simple while still answering the question. A model in chemistry. Atoms and molecules are drawn as spheres joined by bonds. Atoms are far too tiny to see, so chemists picture them as little balls connected by sticks. This ball and stick picture isn't exactly what atoms look like, but it helps us predict how they join and react. A model in biology. Cells are shown as diagrams that highlight their key parts. A real cell is crowded and messy, so biology textbooks draw a clean diagram showing just the nucleus, membrane, and a few organelles. The simplified diagram is a model that makes the important parts easy to learn. A model in earth science. The Earth may be treated as a smooth sphere, layered into distinct regions. The real Earth has mountains, oceans, and an uneven, bumpy surface. But for many questions, we treat it as a smooth ball with neat layers, crust, mantle, and core. The simplification makes it possible to reason about the whole planet at once. Building a model. Making a model means making assumptions and deliberately ignoring certain details. Every model rests on assumptions, things we choose to treat as true or as unimportant. Stating these assumptions clearly is part of doing good science, because it tells others exactly where the model can be trusted. Ignoring details. Example 1. When studying a falling object, we may ignore air resistance to see the basic effect of gravity. In real life, air does slow a falling object, but including it makes the maths complicated. By first ignoring air resistance, we can clearly see how gravity alone pulls everything downward. Ignoring details. Example 2. When studying how the heart pumps blood, we ignore individual cells so we can understand the organ as a working system. The heart contains billions of cells, but if our question is, how does it pump blood? Those individual cells just get in the way. Zooming out to the whole organ gives a much clearer answer. Not a mistake. These choices are made on purpose, to keep things simple enough while still answering our question. Leaving out a detail is only wrong if it changes the answer. A skilled scientist chooses which details to drop on purpose, and that judgment is exactly the skill we're learning to develop. Ask the class, when is leaving something out smart, not lazy? Example 1.1. The cricket's 6. A ball is hit for a 6. The key question to model is, will the ball cross the boundary without hitting the ground first? Notice how naming the question first decides everything else. Once we're clear about what we're trying to find out, we can sort every detail into matters and doesn't matter. Cricket. What to ignore. The brand of the bat, the color of the ball, the amount of grass on the field. None of these change the answer. These things might matter for other questions. A commentator might care about the bat brand, but not for, will it clear the boundary? Recognizing irrelevant detail is the first half of model building. Cricket. What matters? The mass of the ball and the speed and direction in which it is hit are very important. These are the quantities that directly decide where the ball lands. A good model must always include the factors the answer truly depends on. That's the second half of model building. Cricket. Small effects and accuracy. Air resistance, spin, and the seam stitching have small effects we can ignore in a simple model. For more accuracy, we add more details. There's always a trade-off. A simple model gives a quick, roughly right answer, while adding spin and air resistance makes it more accurate but harder to calculate. You choose how much detail to include based on how exact you need to be. Activity 1.1. Model your bike ride. Have students model the time to ride from school to home. What to keep? What to ignore? Let them debate it. Distance and average speed clearly matter, while the color of the cycle or the songs they hum do not. The lesson is that ignoring the right details makes the problem solvable without losing the answer. Why is ignoring some details actually useful?